All right, you want to talk about the Nathan Diaz Conor McGregor fight, which we did watch. To be honest, I think the fight was a draw. I think a draw would have been a very fair result to that fight. I saw on Twitter, man, that this guy was saying he's a handicapper, one of the best in the business, and he was saying in one day he's been called a Diaz fanboy, a McGregor fanboy, a piece of crap, worthless, on and on and on, and he's not really a fan of either fighter. He looks at the fight objectively. And if he says something good about Diaz, he says he gets all kind of tweets about him getting hammered for being a Diaz fanboy and vice versa with Conor. And I really didn't think much of it, and then I got on Facebook and I saw some discussions going on, and it's like, he wasn't kidding, man. The Conor fanboys are just as crazed as the Diaz fanboys, and nobody seems to be able to look at that fight objectively. As you know, since we watched the fight together, I did want Diaz to win, absolutely. And I thought he did come close a couple times. But there's a couple things like, everybody says Floyd, and everybody's talking about this, so it's not like big wisdom coming out of me or new thoughts, but how Floyd runs and doesn't fight this or that, but Floyd always stays engaged. He uses lateral movement, he backpedals, but he's got the fighter following him. I know in boxing, if you would turn around and walk the other way, you can get a point deducted in boxing, and these are 10-8, 10-9 rounds.
Yeah.
Which most of that applies to MMA. And then the Conor fanboys are saying, no, he just walked away and reset, and it's like, 12 feet away a couple times. That's a little funky, and Diaz, he got the takedown on McGregor. If the fight would have won another minute, Diaz would have won it, which that doesn't mean he won the fight, but that does mean he wins the round. So I thought the scoring was kind of strange. When I first saw it, I'm like, one judge got a draw, and then the other two, scored it different. And looking at the fight, I think a draw probably would have been the fairest thing that could have happened, because it was a close fight. McGregor did great, Diaz did great. You can't look at fights with damage, because Diaz got scar tissue, he bleeds, punch in the bag, you know what I mean? So, and McGregor did get the 3 knockdowns, so he absolutely, big props for that, because Diaz is hard to knock down. But I really think, objectively speaking, no fanboys involved, nobody thinks they're pro judges or know how to score fights. I think the fight was a draw, my personal opinion. What I didn't like is at the end, before they said anything, they started talking about a third fight. And that gave the whiff of some dirty business going on there. I think a win for Diaz, a draw on the second fight, and then a third fight would have been just fine. But, still, people don't realize how much revenue the Athletic Commission makes on these types of fights, and how many ringside tickets they get, and many, many perks, which is fine. They're the commission, but the rules state that no commission managers, different things, have a stake in these kinds of things. So right away as a third fight, there was odds on the third fight the very next day here out of Vegas. And it's just, personally, I just don't like to see that happen, because it's going the direction of boxing in a way. And 2, that was the first fight the new owners of the UFC put on. Where the Fertittas are out. And those guys are a major talent agency in Hollywood. Some of the best. They do a great job. And they're looking to take UFC stars and bump them up even to new heights, which is fine. Some guys are modeling and this, that, and the other thing. And it is combat entertainment. There's nothing wrong with that. It helps the fighters. But guys who don't have the looks, the charisma, and still good fighters, are they going to get a fair shake in the sport? I don't know, They favor McGregor quite a bit, and he brings in more money than any other fighter in the history of UFC. So to have one judge do it a draw, and then the other 2 in favor of McGregor, it just gives that whiff of impropriety to me, and that's what was probably disappointing more than anything. And you know, the fanboys are fanboys, you know, props to them for being behind their fighter no matter what, but you have to look at fights objectively to really whittle down what's going on. And they have no idea how the politics of the fight game works. And if you do know, then, you know, I'm not saying that anybody's dirty, but it just gives that look. You know, they should be above reproach, in my opinion. And boxing is pretty much ruined. Everybody knows that. Nobody thinks boxing's fair. You know, Floyd, he can't lose a fight in Vegas unless somebody knocks him out, which he wins them. He does win them. I'm not saying he's gotten bad decisions, but some have been pretty close. They always go in Floyd's favor because he generates a massive amount of money here. And props to him. He knows the game and he works it. You know what I mean? So that's good. But boxing's already ruined pretty much. So now McGregor is like a Floyd Mayweather, and you know, we're probably, you know, if it goes the way of boxing, UFC fighters will make a little bit more money as a rule, because boxers on average do make more money than MMA fighters on the prelims and undercards. Obviously the big boxing stars like Floyd and Pacquiao make, you know, huge amounts of money. And to me, this fight is a shift towards that. So we're going to see these guys who own UFC now take the guys who can fight, who are charismatic, who have looks, and turn them into mega stars like Floyd and Manny Pacquiao. And they're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. Everybody else is going to make a little bit more money, but you're going to take a little bit of the integrity of the sport away, which we've seen in boxing. Like, you know, in boxing, you know, you can go, you can look at a fight card, and all the promoters' fighters are going to win. And the odds are like, you know, 12,000 to 1. You know, you can't even hardly make a bet on a fight anymore. And that's because the promoters' guys are going to win. You know, the best are not fighting the best, and it's a money game. You know, so we don't really know who the best boxer in the world is. You know, we can speculate, but we don't know because they never fight the best. You know, it's a turn in MMA I don't really like to see. Said straight up, I don't know who's going to win. It's a pick 'em, and I'm not betting on it. So then when he kind of broke down the fight objectively, every time he said something good about Conor, the Diaz fans were calling him the Conor fanboy and he's a piece of crap. And when he said something good about Diaz, the Conor people did it. To me, it's like, are you guys nuts? Like, you're so in love with Conor McGregor that you can't even look at his fight objectively. You know, he beat the crap out of Diaz. Diaz didn't have a chance on it. It's like, all right, then they want to argue with everybody. And it's like, I mean, personally, I don't like arguing on the internet. If we're going to argue, let's do it face to face. But, you know, people do what they do, and it is entertaining, but it's just kind of unreal to me how that works, you know. It's like, I mean, I bet on fights sometimes, and, you know, I'll bet against, you know, my best friend. If I think he's going to lose, the idea is to make a little bit of money. It's nothing personal. And if you don't look at the fights objectively, you're going to lose your money. And it's the same way when you're training a fighter. You know, if you don't look at your fighter's strength and weaknesses and scenarios that can happen, that's how you come up with a game plan. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But, you know, it's just unreal to me how far they go. Like, I really wasn't aware of that until I kind of saw it on Twitter, you know, so I kind of started looking, and like, he was right, man. And these guys on Facebook, like, going at it, you know, they live 2,000 miles away from each other, they're talking smack on the computer. It's like, I mean, I guess what really struck me is out of every 10 Diaz fanboys and every McGregor fanboys, there might be one guy who looks at the fight objectively, and they both hammer him. And it's like, gosh, dang, man, it's like almost like, what do you call it, a world WWE or something, you know, so. And the problem is in the fight game is you got to feed your audience. Or, you know, if you can't make money, nobody fights, nobody makes money. UFC has done a better job of it than anybody in the world in history, in my opinion. You know, but like we were talking about Ali a few weeks past. And it's like, at that era of boxing, they were real champions. They were fighting for real, and there was a lot of money on the line. But, and the Diaz-McGregor fight was a real deal fight, no doubt. But you know, I don't like to see it pushed in different directions. Just let the fight be what it is. I really think a draw would have been the fair call on that, and then there would have been a gang of fodder for a third fight, and it would have meant more to me. You know, it's all just my opinion, obviously. But fanboys can't look at a fighter objectively. They don't understand that they're just human. You know, things happen. They work hard. They're talented, but they're still human. But they, like, Conor McGregor fans are rabid. I mean, he's never done anything wrong ever. He didn't even lose the first Diaz fight, according to most of them. You know, he gassed, he lost. Like, all right, whatever you gotta tell yourself. I mean, you know, Diaz kicked his ass. You know, period. And you know, this time they had a brutal fight. You know, they fought like champions, both of them. You know, can't take away from either one of those guys. But you know, like I said, I think a draw would have been more fair. But like the fanboys are like, he won 4 rounds. Judge was crazy to give it a draw. And it's like, you know, all right. And they know how to score fights. They research it. You know, they've never fought. They've never trained anybody. They've never judged a fight or up to fight. But they're like experts, you know. So it got me to wondering, like, dang, man, it's kind of good for the MMA business to have grown men spending all kind of time and all this stuff over a fight or a fighter or even a fight card. It's like, that's what they want to do, but to me it's like, my gosh, man, like, you can't be objective at all. It just kind of blew me away. I've never seen nothing like it between you know, fanboys of McGregor and fanboys of Diaz. And I mean, you know, it's cool they'd be fanboys and support their fighter. I like all that. This makes it exciting, but it's going into new levels, so I do wonder if we're going to keep seeing that or if it's going to get worse. You know, I know, you know, the wrestling, you know, it was a few, you know, years back, but, you know, people were just rabid about that stuff. You know, it's you know, guys are tough, you know, but it's still entertainment. They're scripted fights. Like, how can you argue about who won a fight? It was scripted. I knew who was going to win 2 weeks before they went in the ring. Mm-hmm. But they'll freaking argue about it, you know, which is like everybody, all the fight people, they're wrestling fans. Well, I'm seeing it happen in MMA now. I don't know if it's the same people grown up a little bit, or I don't know if this is just the way of the world, and they're going to make UFC a lot of money, that's for sure. But still, you know, the politics of it, when you get into the commission, the new owners of the UFC, you know, what pays better, it's just strange when you see the perfect result for even a bigger payday when, you know, that wasn't so much the case, you know. And Diaz fans are just as bad. They're like, you know, Nate kicked his ass, you know, Conor ran the whole time, and yeah, he did, you know, Conor did some funky stuff, but, you know, Nate Diaz got dropped 3 times. Got his leg hacked up pretty good. So to me, you know, it's just, they go too far. I don't know if it's the right or the left, but they're way too far. And it's just strange to me how literally grown men can get that into it and want to argue on Facebook. Like, I saw this one post, I mean, there must have been 500 people posting on it, like, multiple times. Like, they're on that Facebook for a couple hours over this stuff. And it's like, who cares what anybody thinks? If that's your favorite fighter and he won, be happy. Then they want to argue about it and thrash everybody else. And it's like, you know, somebody, a Diaz fan, went out and started shooting his gun off at people after Diaz lost the fight. I saw an article on it. Like, my gosh, dude, it's just a fight.
Yeah.
And even Facebook, it's like, it's Facebook. It's not that serious, you know. I mean, you know, people are all 1,000 miles away from each other. They want to talk shit on Facebook. It's like,
it's almost like people are fighting through the comments that they make. They're not able to actually fight the fight, but they can fight or troll on the internet through social media.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just too old school. You know, I didn't grow up with computers, and I mean, I've only had social media and all that stuff the last 10 years, and email maybe 15 years. But you know, it's just the way of the world. And like I said, I appreciate fans. You know, I'm not even using fanboy as a bad word. It's just it's the word other people use, and that's the only word I have. You know, like, I think it's cool, man, if people love McGregor and, you know, want to rep him and be down for him. But the links that they're going is really trippy to me. That's in my opinion. It's just odd. Like, I just can't believe people get that incensed. And, you know, I mean, they're more incensed than Diaz and McGregor. Diaz thinks he won. McGregor's happy he won. They want to do a third fight. They're both home kicking it with millions of dollars. We don't give a shit about all this, you know? And it's just like, you know, with these fans, man, there's something missing, I think, in the world. That's what I kind of tripped out on. Like, geez, man, like, the McGregor fanboys give Diaz no credit, and same with Diaz fanboys. And it's like, you know, that's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. You know, in my opinion, it's a draw. I know a lot of other fight people who agree with that, but, you know, I don't think anybody feels the need to be on Facebook 8 hours a day talking about it. But there's, I mean, Facebook is still lighting up with that stuff, you know. It's like, and I get it, you know, you engage with people that you don't live around and all that, but just the levels that they take it and the way they do it, or this troll thing, maybe a lot of it is trolls, you know. Which, you know, I almost feel sorry for a troll, because if, like, that's how you blow your dress up, man, like, geez, I'm thinking of a lot better things that bring more pleasure than that shit, you know. Right? But they don't look at things objectively. So, you know, I just like to see these young guys use their talents and energy and things that are more productive for them and their friends and family than this kind of crap, you know.
Keep your mind open.
Something, bro. It's like, you know, like every Americans want to kill each other. It's like, hey, you know, we're kind of all Americans here. Like, you know, maybe at least for a little while, we should come together. You know, there's strength in numbers, and, you know, straighten out this country and everybody in it. You know, it'd be a good idea, but it's like, you know, people, you don't want to do that. And it's like, well, what do you want to do then? Or do you even know? Or, you know, it's like in Brazil, I have dear friends that come from Brazil. One of them is one of the best jiu-jitsu professors in the world, literally top 10. And Brazilian, you know, let me just put it like this. They say that there's some soap operas in Brazil that lead people the direction they want them to go. And when I've heard that from 4 or 5 and I love Brazilians, man. I think they're some of the neatest people in the world, man. I really do. I respect them. I have great fun with them. You know, good friends, man. I love them. But to hear that from people who wouldn't say that if it wasn't true is like, well, the same stuff's happening here depending on what news network you watch. That's scary to me. Scary to me. So that's a fanboy. It can be politically, sports. Other football teams, like I know in Texas, man, if you don't like the Dallas Cowboys, you're like a freaking communist. It's like it's football game. Serious stuff, man. Like, you know, but whatever. I know a convict, a good friend of mine, tough as heck, man. He's a Broncos fan. And 2 times I literally seen him wreck people saying something bad about the Broncos. I'm like, oh, what's the matter with you? You're on parole. It's like, I don't want you to be in prison all your life. You're gonna do, you know, I can see doing it for money or honor or family, but for the Broncos, you've never even been to Denver. So anyways, he was a fanboy. Solid as a rock. He'd die before he'd break his word, but he's a fanboy. He's a Broncos fanboy. And I see it going on a gigantic scale, so I just didn't pay attention to it anymore. And just hope for the best on MMA and the fighters and the fans. You know, I want them to be entertained. I want them to learn from it. And, you know, I'm down to be loyal to a fighter, but like they go past reasoning to me. It's like you gotta be, you know, you gotta be strong or smart in this world if you want to make it. And what they're doing is not smart, so hopefully they're strong. But strength don't last forever. So they can take it or leave it. I don't really care.
I think that's it for today.
Cool stuff, bro. You gonna be famous doing that? Huh? What are you doing?